for his perspective on nearly everything we've covered on the program today. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined now in the studio by the political affairs commentator, a Rise News analyst, and professor of communications at Bayes University in Abuja, Professor Adeniyi. Great to see you, Prof.
Thank you, Charles.
And to have the benefit of your analysis.
I appreciate it.
I know you've been a busy man, so thank you for coming in.
Just like you too.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about the first guest, Jude Ilo, who's the CEO of the Netherlands organization, the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law. They're talking about a new paradigm for justice in Nigeria, and it's called people-centered justice. What's your assessment of that?
Well, that's a welcome development, no doubt. The world is generally propelled by ideas and innovation. So if innovation is your focus, no doubt something that we can consider very salutary. And the fact that it's also people-oriented is also very welcoming, because the essence of any system, any state organization, any structure for that matter, is people-centrism, you know. The ability to prioritize the interests of the people matters more in any system. And of course, when politicians, you know, when state actors, you know, when people are in quest for power, the essence of seeking power, you know, is to have it and probably leave a legacy by trying to improve the loss of the people, trying to fulfill their wishes and aspirations, you know. And of course, the best way to do it is through the instrument of law. But oftentimes we have seen deviations. Democracy is prized as a very good system of government because it is representative and inclusive, and of course able to tend to the interest of the people. So we should take it for granted ordinarily that democracy, you know, that the rule of law is integral to democracy. But what we are witnessing largely in recent times, not just, like you rightly said, not just in Africa or in Nigeria, but in other parts of the world, United States, even as the bastion of democracy, we have seen some deviation. You know, that's what we're witnessing. So we need a reversal, if not at the physical level, maybe at the level of reconscientization, you know, the creation of awareness through ideas and innovation, like the organization seems to be leading, and like he articulated well while he was with you. I think it's even more needed in Nigeria of today, you know, where there are questions around, you know, our subscription to the rule of law, and where there are questions around the performance of our judiciary, and recent times in the process of adjudicating political disputation, as the case could be.
It's very interesting that he recognized what you're saying and articulated that, but their focus is they carried out extensive surveys across Nigeria with thousands of people, and they found out that people are very alienated from the justice system. And therefore they were looking, that's why they coined the term people-centered justice, where you would take justice for the people away from the very formal court system and bring it back to their little neighborhoods. He talked about being able to walk into a kiosk and get some personal advice, because most people don't want to end up in a court.
Well, I think I think it's just an expansionist kind of policy that I imagine they are thinking about, you know, because, and if we want to talk about it in that context, we have to be slightly careful so that we will not go back to the days of old, you know, where the court system, the justice system, the criminal justice system as we have it now, you know, will not be something we want to talk about, or will not be something we need to emphasize. There are questions that we have rightly asked about how the justice system was pursued in those days, you know, where the family system was strong, the traditional institutions were very strong, you know, the clan system, as the case could be, was very strong, where people would rather go to the king rather than go to the courts, you know. But of course, with modernity, we seem to have moved away from that now. You know, we have the structure, as we understand it, the judicial, the criminal justice system as it is now. And we celebrate that, you know, because we equate it with civilization. But if we want to move away from there, I'd rather be thinking about a merger, how we can re-emphasize alternative justice system, a system where if we consider the judiciary as being disappointing, what more can we do?
But I think that's the point he's making, actually. I don't think he's saying that you're going to change the entire... He's simply saying that it's a way of, first of all, removing the load from the courts, and also bringing a form of justice to people, because a lot of people are living with what they consider to be injustice, but they just don't want to go through the process of having to go to court and all that. So if you have a kiosk where there's a lawyer in there, in your neighborhood, you just go there, I'll speak to the guy, this is my problem, what should I do? And he says, oh yeah, well, go to the police or go to your traditional ruler, or you have to go to a magistrate court. You see what I mean? But it's like a one-stop shop. And then
I think, Charles, I would definitely support any crisis resolution mechanism.
Right.
So that we can enhance, peace in the system. We can have crises easily resolved rather than the elongated resort, to the judiciary, where justice can be very slow, like we all know it. And of course, if that's what they are imagining, no doubt a welcome development, but of course a merger will also be very important between what they are talking about, people-centrism, and of course the one that we have at hand. But let's not forget, the material nature of our system as well. Where, the more wherewithal you have, the more you are able to influence things, where you can be the law unto yourself, and because of your material prosperity or material prowess.
Absolutely.
And all of that. So all those things will also come into play.
But I think he's talking on the very basic level.
That's why we have to resolve some of those issues. And that's why the conversation will have to be holistic, not necessarily isolated, and probably weave together, find some kind of middle ground, if to improve on our justice system that we are presently suspicious of in terms of credibility and integrity.
Right. Well, let's move on to the other topic, which was warnings from representatives of smallholder farmers that this country is at risk of reversing the gains it's made in national food security over the past decade. We had Michael Ame, who represents about 30,000 smallholder farmers, and his argument is that all the gains that were made with millions of tons of rice grown locally, expansion of rice mills and all of that is at risk of being wiped away because a lot of food is being imported, and that they basically want Tinubu to reverse that.
Charles, his advocacy is very okay, but there's no sector in this country that didn't really feel the impact of the economic reforms of the last 2 years, particularly the removal of subsidy on petroleum, followed by removal of subsidy on electricity, and of course, the liberalization of the foreign exchange market. Every sector is definitely feeling it. And of course, if agricultural sector is complaining, no doubt, a credible complaint, considering the role that we expect agriculture to play, in the bid, to diversify economy, in addition to state development, in addition to enhancing the creative economy and all of that. And of course, over the years, we've also talked about, we've had, consistent emphasis on growing agriculture. In the Obasanjo period, we had Operation Feed the Nation, Shagari, Green Revolution. So subsequent governments have always emphasized agriculture. And if policies seems to be weakening, the efficiency and productivity of that sector, is something that the government should look at. And he referred to fertilizer. I mean, these are things that the government can actually consider, because we know what farmers are going through now. The insecurity question is still there. Hardly can many of them go to farm and work as efficiently as they used to do because of threats, fear of for their life. So they are resorting to all other ways of surviving. Some of them falls into things that they would ordinarily not have been. Things that they would ordinarily not have done. Banditry, kidnapping, and all these criminal acts are there. So welcome advocacy, no doubt, and just like you said at the closing, that it is hoped that government is also listening. Critical sector, an occupation for over 90% of Nigerians. remembering that many of them are subsistence farmers. So if these opportunities deny them, because of other factors in the guise of economic reform, it's going to be a sad day in the office.
On that note, I want to thank you, Prof, very much indeed. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is a political affairs commentator, a Rise News analyst, and professor of communications at Bayes University in Abuja. Great to see you again. Thank you very much indeed. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.